This podcast is brought to you by Traventure Cafe, where the wild at heart fuel their passion and adventure is served fresh. Today I'm with one special guest, Peter Wasike. Karibu sana Peter Wasike.
Asante sana Curtis.
It's so nice to have you.
Thank you.
So you are an instructor, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So before I dive into details, could you tell me what bike you're riding?
Today I'm riding the 1250R. It's a BMW GS. GS means Galante Strada, which translates to road and off-road.
Galante Strada.
Galante Strada.
Galante Strada.
Yes.
It means road
and off-road.
I'm sure some people didn't know that. I know in the watches they'll start telling me you're the one who didn't know, but I know they didn't know it either. So they're knowing it right now. Interesting. So a while back when you were at the parking, there was a feature I noticed about this bike. It is keyless.
Yes.
You're not scared of the security concerns about it?
No, not really. It's actually safer to have this bike than a key one, because you will always have the key away from the bike if you disconnect yourself from the bike. So the chances of someone having the bike and the key are minimal.
Now with the it has a remote, you mean?
Yeah, so the key has a remote feature which is remotely connected to the bike. So if you have the key in your pocket, for example, you get on the bike and the distance between you and the bike dedicates that the key is in working range. So the bike works based on the distance from the key. So if you get off the bike and you are away from the bike, then the bike is useless.
It will switch off.
If you switch off the bike and walk away, or if you don't switch it off, it will stay on for a few seconds, then it will switch off. Once it senses that the key is away from the bike, the computer system shuts the bike down.
Oh, interesting. So like right now that you're here, you have the key in your pocket, right?
Yes, I do.
And so if I try to switch it on, it will come on or no?
It will not come on.
It will not come
unless
on.
I am very close to the bike or on the bike.
So this is not close enough.
It's not. Try.
You need to be a little bit.
Okay. I need to be on the bike.
I'll just give it a try.
Yeah.
Actually, it's just blinking. It's just blinking. Yeah. But when you get on the bike, it will turn on.
It will turn on.
Oh wow, yeah. That's an interesting feature. Which model is this? For which year?
This is a supposed to be 2019, but released in 2020, probably because of Corona or some reasons. So it's 2020.
Okay, interesting. And which other bike you have? Because you said today I have.
I said today I'm riding.
Yeah, today you're riding. So I can imagine.
As an instructor, I'm supposed to ride any bike, and as an instructor also, one of the qualifications of an instructor is being a very good rider. So having skills to ride all motorcycles, including 50cc, ones that people think are too small, because people have asked me, so how do you feel when you come off this bike and pick a 150cc bike? Well, it feels awkward, but I'm a good rider, so that's my profession, riding.
But for sure, you must have a favorite.
Of course, I love the BMW. I love the BMW more because probably I've used it more, and fact that the engineering of this machine dedicates that it's ridden differently from other bikes. I'm sure this is something also many people don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know that. How is that?
A GS specifically is ridden very differently from other bikes. And the engineering of this machine requires that you join an academy once you buy this bike to be trained how to ride it for you to enjoy this machine.
You join a BMW academy?
Yeah. So like here in Kenya, for example, for a long time, people were buying these bikes probably maybe before Inchcape and Bavaria. People were still riding the GS, so they would ship them in from outside and without notice that this bike does not handle like the other bikes, depending on how you ride them, they would not enjoy. They would just buy and say, oh, this is just a GS, it's just a BMW, the name. They would not enjoy the features that are in this bike. They would not maximize the output that this bike can give. But once you realize that you get trained properly by BMW certified instructor from Germany or South Africa, the only places in Africa you can get this training is South Africa and probably now maybe Kenya.
In Kenya, you're the one who trains for this as well.
Yeah,
So you're
I have
certified
a friend called Shakir Merali. He's also very good. He's actually the one who introduced me to, even personally myself, I didn't know there's a way of riding a GS. And when I was introduced into this, we got trained by instructors from South Africa, of course, from an academy. And after training, I realized, yes, this is a different bike. It handles differently when you know how to ride it. And then I continued. So I pursued up to, so currently I'm actually holding a certificate for Off-Road Adventure Course Plus. Off-Road Adventure Course Plus.
Wow. So that's training for off-road specifically.
Yeah, Off-Road Adventure Course Plus is a course designed to teach you how to handle 300 and above kilos on an off-road terrain, on a slippery or an even surface. Yeah. And the power in this machine, the torque and the power and the weight, the height and everything, you really need to have that skill to be able to travel worldwide with this machine. And trust me, you can travel the whole world with this machine, passing through all the terrains.
So are you telling me, if I go to Inchcap right now and I want to buy this bike, so the first thing they'll tell me, are you trained? Do you know how to ride this bike, or they just sell it to me?
They will first, because of safety, trust me, they will ask you that question. They will ask you if you're a rider or if you're not a rider.
So if I'm a rider but I don't have the skill set to ride this one?
So what Inchcap and us have done is we've partnered with Inchcap to provide complimentary training to their customers
Before you buy the bike?
when they buy the bike.
Or when they buy?
And they get referrals. They give us that referral and say, this person is buying this bike. They are upgrading from, let's say, 650 to a 1250. And because safety is their concern, safety of their client is their concern, they will always call us in, and they will make sure that the client accesses us, talks to us, and we will assess the client. Then upon assessment, we determine their skill level. And if we find that they can't handle the bike, we recommend what we feel is absolute for them. So if it's a number of classes or a number of sessions or days training,
At least until you get it.
until they are comfortable and until we are comfortable that they can manage to handle this machine. You don't want to drop this machine even once. It's very expensive.
Like if you drop it once, that's it?
Yeah, if you break that small indicator there, I think it will cost you more than 16,000 Kenyan shillings.
To get a set or just that one?
Just one piece.
Is it about class or it's just because it's a German machine?
It's a smart machine. Everything on this machine is smart. And I think this is done because of safety. Yeah, you want to travel with this machine all over the world. You don't want to have trouble. Sometimes, as human beings, we fall short of, capacity. And this machine can help us some percentage.
So
making sure we are safe.
Okay. You've never dropped it though?
Well, if I say no, I lie, because as a trainer, sometimes even just showing students a stunt, and the machine slips.
In the middle of training?
Yeah.
Isn't that embarrassing?
At first, it feels embarrassing, but why would we want people to train if we don't tell them the truth behind vulnerability of the machine. We want people to train. We want them to know that this machine drops. It can drop anytime. You need skill. You need good behavior. You need to be well geared. They say we gear for impact. We don't gear for the look.
Well, you can't tell this. It's not the same with sports bikes. People who do sports bikes.
Well, fine. But even in sports, I think it's more. I'll give you a quick example, the helmet. This is not a racing helmet. If I walk with this helmet into a racing ground today, I'll not be allowed to race in this helmet because it has not been approved for sports.
Oh, okay.
So sporting gear is even more. They are even more strict on sporting gear. Yeah.
So this is for what?
This is for adventure.
Why does it have this thing that looks like a cup?
First, before the cup, looking at the shape of the helmet,
The visor,
it has a long nose. The reason for the long nose is because they want you to have bigger space for breathing. You know, the air circulates around your nose when you're riding, and when you pick speeds, pressure also goes higher. When you pick speeds around you, traveling fast, like 120, for example, just a quick example, the drag, wind comes against you, and it's not wind, it's actually a load, it's weight against you. And that weight creates a load outside your body. So the pressure outside goes higher than the pressure inside the helmet. And breathing becomes very difficult. So you need bigger space of air so that you can breathe more oxygen. And the reason they make adventure helmets, like they put that feature on that adventure helmets, because they assume you are riding for the longest periods. A racer could ride for an hour or less than an hour, but an adventure rider could be on the bike 10 hours a day.
Yeah, because you're going far.
Yeah.
So now let me ask you. One, why does the BMW or say Inchcap only offer training when you buy this one and not the S1K, for instance, like this one? 'Cause do they sell these ones as well, the S1Ks?
They sell all bikes. Inchcap sells all bikes. But right now, I think in stock, they have the GS versions. Most are GS versions, and they also have the 900 series, the road version.
Okay.
There's the sports tourers, which are not GSs and are not racer bikes. These are pure sport bikes. They could not be racing bikes, but they are sport bikes. So they are categories of bikes. There's the GS, there's the G alone, which is road alone, like the 310, for example. The 310 has the G version and the GS version. So the G version, which is R, they say R because they're road, there's a 900 series of that, which is not a sporting bike, but it's a tour bike. It's a road version, which you can tour with. So the steering bars are set higher. You can't stand and ride like on the GS, but you sit up so you don't get tired when you ride for a longer distance.
Okay, nice. So they don't, when you walk into, say, if in case they have these ones and they sell to you this one, they won't offer you training or give it much attention.
They'll always advise that you get trained. But one thing I want to also tell you is that in Kenya today, because of probably the biking history of like the evolution of motorcycles, people have not been riding for so long in Kenya at the moment. And I'm sure you will attest with me that it's about biking, maybe within 20 years now. Long time.
Eating there.
Yeah, so the longest time, bikes were there, but they were not so common. Not very many people were riding. And even bike dealers did not exist those
at
days.
The moment.
So it's now that people are now growing in skill and in terms of the urge, because even buying that bike, you really have to spend a lot of money.
It's a lot
You
of
must
money.
be in love with that bike to be able to
It
save
takes a lot.
for it. So by the time somebody decides that they want to ride, no, that bike is very fast.
It's super fast.
You know, the RR versions,
Yeah.
those machines go fast. And for you to decide that I'm buying this machine, you at least have been riding, you have some level of skill. And most of the guys that have these bikes actually have been riding for substantial period of time. They are not beginners. They are somewhere. So when they walk into Inchcape and they say, okay, fine, I've been riding this, they will always be asked, what are you coming from? And they will say, I've been riding this or this. And then they'll tell them, fine, if you think you need extra tuition, or even confidence rides or tuition, we have this person partnered with us. They will help you. And guys are reaching out.
And it's not compulsory though. It's a recommendation.
It's not compulsory. What is compulsory is, and this I tell you for sure, that Inchcape will not sell you a bike today if you don't know how to ride completely. They will not give it to you.
So you have to give your driver's license, or how will you prove that you've been riding?
So they will believe in your word if they see your license, or if I say yes, they know how to ride. So that's what they're doing.
So they'll put someone in a test. You'll come and assess.
Yes. If they can prove that they can ride, then we will prove that they can ride. If they don't know how to ride completely, then they will join classes. It's not compulsory they join our classes. They can go to other places, train, provided they certify Inchcape that they know how to ride. That's when they will be given the bike.
Do you think it will be good if all dealers were doing the same thing? Do you think that would reduce the number of accidents we have in Kenya?
Absolutely. I want to tell you this for free, that in my experience, I've learned one thing, that day one really matters. The first day of introduction in anything on this earth really matters. If you get introduced the proper way, like for example, if the person who makes it possible for you to sit on a motorcycle skips a very important step, like minding if you know how to ride or not. You understand what I mean? If a person hands the key to you and says, yes, this is the key, they are giving you access to the motorcycle. These motorcycles, by virtue of their design, they are dangerous. It cannot stand on its own. You must support it or ride it. If it's standing here, it falls down, right? You have to support it to the stand. When you get it off the stand, you have to hold it. When you sit on it, you start the bike, you start riding. That's when you get balance. And I've asked people this question, how do you get balance on a motorcycle? People say you balance with your body. I'm this slender guy. How do I ride a 300 kilos motorcycle through all terrain if I need muscle? I don't need muscle. I need to understand the science behind riding. And the first science behind riding is the centrifugal force, the rotation of the tire.
Centrifugal force.
Yes, when the tire rotates, it produces a force that works against gravity. And a perfect example is if you pick a coin right now, you know how thin the coin is? 20 bob or 10 bob. It cannot stand on its own. You have to hold it on this table. But if you tell me to stand that coin and let it stand alone, I will rotate it.
That's the only way it can stand alone.
Yes,
by the way.
I will rotate it, and once it's in rotation, it will be upright, actually 90 degrees upright, until the rotation wears out, then the coin falls. So during the rotation, there is a force that's being produced, which I'm calling the centrifugal force. It's the force that counters gravity. That is the force that keeps us upright on this machine.
Not your strength or anything.
No.
Well, contrary to what people have been saying, you need to hit the gym because these bikes are very strong and heavy.
Well, endurance, maybe in terms of endurance. But if you're getting tired, then it means you're not riding the correct way. You know how to ride, probably. For example, you're used to a GS and then you get an RR, you'll get tired because your sitting position is getting adjusted to a different setup.
So that's one of the trainings you do.
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Yes.
So what's the difference? Why? Because this one, BMW, they offer training because the GS is unique and different. What's the difference between this and the African Twin that they have to offer training for this?
I think the designers of this machine chose to offer training because they designed something that doesn't look like the other machines. And a perfect example is the sitting position of the engine. Most of the bikes will be either V engines, inline. You know Ducatis have V engines.
V engines.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by V engines?
V engines are those engines whose cylinders are opposite. So one cylinder faces another direction, another cylinder faces another direction, but they are all like upright in one line. For the BMW, the boxer engine, so one piston is on the left side and one piston also is on the extreme right side. So the if you look at that bike, you will notice that the cylinder head of this right piston is right here at the edge of this side. So that is the cylinder head of the right piston, and the cylinder head of the left piston is on the further end. So the piston knock side by side, and the crankshaft is in the middle. So because of that, the force, because the force generates vibration. Like if you look at the older versions of the 1200s, the air-cooled ones, they used to have more vibrations more than now versions, and that vibration alone would disorient your balance. Just when you start the bike, you feel like it popping out of your legs. So you need proper training to handle such an engine.
African Twin does not have that.
So African Twin engines are all in line. They are up here, either straight or forward. So yeah, it's a twin also. The African Twin is twin, and I think it's probably a V.
So you don't just buy a bike and then you start riding. You need to know this, like the way you mentioned it, the science and the details as well.
Yeah, I will not say you don't just buy a bike, because many people have bought bikes and ridden them, and they were lucky to get used to the bikes they bought without serious incidences. But with people who understand, why would you go the long way if you have someone who can advise you? It's better to get advice before you invest, because I believe many people have made choices that they found were wrong choices later on, and it's a heavy investment. Paying over $1 million shillings for a motorcycle that you think is a wrong choice later on is not really wise.
And by the time you want to return it, it's depreciating and all that. So
it will always depreciate.
Oh, that's crazy. I did not know that about the BMW. I didn't know they offer training. I'd wish if all the dealers would do the same thing. I think that would reduce the chances of accidents.
My recommendation, maybe in the future, as we continue with this, people will learn to appreciate that when you give someone the key, you are not just giving them the key to go and enjoy. You are also putting them at risk at the same moment. It's like a razor blade. You are giving them this side to enjoy, but when they pull it further towards them, it will cut them. So many people focus on one direction, like, okay, please go and enjoy. But who is this person you're asking to go and enjoy? You don't know them. You don't know their experiences. I think I must also mention this, that at some point the law of, I think NTSA and the police, the traffic police, enforced a law later on in Kenya about selling motorcycles to the dealers, to the motorcycle dealers. I'm talking about the border dealers. Initially, you would walk in a shop, purchase a motorcycle, ride it out, go to another shop, buy a helmet some other day, or never buy a helmet. You would buy a motorcycle just like that. And a law was passed later on and was enforced that if you sell a motorcycle, you must give the rider 2 helmets and 2 reflector vests or jackets, whatever it is. And that law is in place right now. You walk into a border shop, you will be given 2 helmets. Why? Because many people bought motorcycles and crashed all the way even before they reached home.
On their way home.
Yeah, so
Without helmets.
without helmets.
Because they were going to buy helmets somewhere else while they're riding.
Probably they also didn't have skills, but you know,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, it also needs a lot of behavior and behavioral change to realize that you need a license. And a license is not just a document. If you define the word license, you're being allowed by a system or a law that you're certified to operate or to be in possession of. That's the meaning of the license, right? So people think that if you get certified by the document, you are good.
It means you're a good rider.
Yeah, so you think you can walk into a shop, buy a bike, then call someone and say, guy, can you please help me with your license? As far as I have my license, I'll be secured. I'll show the police on the way. They will let me go. What they don't realize is you need skill. For you to be properly licensed, you must go to school. You must follow all the tuition curriculum. You must be put on that training system. Whatever the training styles or systems or requirements are, you must go through all of them. Yeah? And the training systems dedicate that you get trained twice, mentally and physically. So you get trained mentally to understand the machine, to understand the surrounding, to understand the laws, to understand the rules, the do's and the don'ts. Mentally, behavioral change and any interactive requirement mentally. How to look, where to look, how to judge, where to judge, all round observation and things like that. Then you're taken to the field and you're told, okay, this is the machine, so you can train physically. And many people find it even challenging when they are training mentally and trying to combine what they already have trained mentally to the physical, because the body also refuses.
Why would that happen?
You've already been told that this is the clutch and this is how you clutch, but when you do it, it's difficult. Why? It's because the body needs more time learning than the brain.
Oh,
so the information,
adjustment.
So the information given to the person is through the brain, through the information taken, right? You get information through the eyes, you get information through the ears, the nose, yeah? During the time when you're operating, you have to remember what you've been told. And the muscle needs time to learn, to relate with what you've been told. And the muscle will always make it wrong until it's the time that it creates its own memory. And we call it muscle memory. So, and that's why you will hear people say, newbies crash easier than experts. But one question I also ask people that who crashes the most? Who causes the biggest crash when they crash? Actually, experts crash the worst than the newbies. Because a newbie's mistake is that maybe they forgot to clutch in, or they forgot to do this, or they forgot to do this, but the speed will always be very low because of their reaction times required. They didn't meet the reaction time given the reaction distance and maybe the space they had. So they made a mistake. But a guy who can buy a S1000RR on Thika Road doing 300 kilometers per hour, crashing at that speed.
Yeah, okay. So it's very important to
muscle memory. Yep.
Muscle memory. I know about muscle memory from maybe the gym and working out. I've heard instructors talking about that so much. I didn't know it applies in the bike as well.
It very, very heavily applies to the motorcycle, especially the motorcycles. I will also tell you this quickly, that we compare a motorcycle rider to a fighter jet pilot, not any other road user. Not any other road user. Looking at the physics of the motorcycle, like a motorcycle like this, for example, looking at the horsepower it has, and the torque it has, and the weight. People say, you can compare this to a car, and I say no. Power to weight ratio for this motorcycle is actually like you put 4 Subarus together. This machine is way more powerful than a Subaru or any other car. like comparing the power to weight ratio. What this machine can do, like the harm it can cause within a very short period, like within a split second, is greater than a car. Did you know that the fastest motorcycle, at the time when it was, they said, okay, so this is the fastest, it would pick speeds from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
Which bike is that? Or when they were manufacturing now in the beginning?
So these powerful motorcycles, I think it was a Hayabusa or something, the 1300cc. And, 2 seconds.
That's it.
2 seconds is a very short, like, do you know, it takes up to 1.5 seconds for a human being to understand information. Like if you look at something, for example, if you're in motion, for example, and you see something in front of you, and by the time you realize it's a cow, it has taken you more than 1 second. Did you know that?
Now that you mention it, actually, it's registering now that you mentioned it. Yeah, by the way, that is true.
Yeah. So, and do you know why they set speeds and say, this is a 50 kilometers zone, this is a 30 kilometers zone? And when you are a very experienced rider, you reach that point and you're like doing 50, you're like, these guys are jokers. In Kenya, you cannot control people on speed. And that's why Kenya decides that because you guys don't understand why you are being told to slow down, they put bumps. So you knock the bumps and visit garages 3 times, your pockets run out.
And hospitals.
And you respect them. Because nobody will come and tell you to respect 50 kilometers per hour. You think it is stupid. But let me tell you one thing today. When the dashboard reads 100, for example, you're a driver, right? You've traveled in cars. You are also a rider. And there's a dashboard on every vehicle you drive or ride. And on the dashboard, there's that meter that reads the speed, right? There's another meter that's reading the RPMs, the engine speed. We call them odometers and the speedometers. So this speedometer is reading 100. What does it mean?
It means you're going at 100 kilometers per hour.
So you're doing 100 kilometers per hour at that time, right? Does the speedometer break down into elements and say you're traveling this distance per second?
No.
It doesn't.
It does not.
That is the biggest mistake. That is where we go wrong, because we don't understand what we are doing at a second. If you knew how many meters you're covering in 1 second, you would never dare do 100 kilometers per hour in a 50 kilometers per hour zone. You would never. And we can do that calculation with you. So when it's 100 kph, it means you're traveling 100 kilometers. So if we started you now, you would be 100 kilometers away in 60 minutes. That's what it means, right? Yeah, like you would be 100 kilometers away in 60 minutes.
Yeah, as you're moving.
Yeah, so by the time it clocks 60 minutes, you are 100 kilometers away from here.
Yeah.
So if I covered 100 kilometers per hour in that 1 hour, so we come back and ask you how many seconds are in 60 minutes, because 1 hour is 60 minutes, right? So how many seconds do we have in 60 minutes? So you say 60 times 60. It's 3,600 seconds. So you travel 100 kilometers in 3,600 seconds. So how many meters are in 100 kilometers? So we say 1 kilometer has 1,000 meters, right? So it's 100 kilometers times 1,000 meters each kilometer, right? Then we get 100,000 meters. So you traveled 100,000 meters in 3,600 seconds. So what is that? You divide.
If you look at it like that, it's very fast.
So it's 27.7 meters per second that you did. Whenever you rode at 100 kilometers per hour, you are actually covering 27 meters per second. Now, human brain, between the neuron cortex, the part of the brain which picks information from ears, eyes, nose, everywhere, the information reaches the neuron cortex before it's split for referrals. So you open your eyes, you take in, eyes work like photos, like a camera. Snaps, snaps, snaps. So one snap, there's an image in the light. takes up to 25 microseconds from the eyes to the neuron cortex, and then the neuron cortex says, okay, inside this light there's an image. What is that image? So it wants to confirm what the image is, and then it doesn't know what the image is because maybe you saw something like this long time or never seen something like this, so there's no reference. So the neuron cortex has to make reference from the medulla, the memory part of your brain, and then by the time the memory part of the brain registers what this image looks like and brings back the information and says, yeah, this is a donkey or something that looks like a donkey. By the time you register that donkey, my brother, 1 point something seconds are gone. And that's if you're not drunk.
Imagine you're sober and that
You're
happens.
sober. That's if you're not hungry or angry. That's when you're good. It takes up to 1.25 microseconds. 1 second plus. You are moving at 27.7 meters per second, and you need 1.5 seconds to register an obstacle. That's why people crash on a Sunday afternoon in broad daylight. And you ask yourself, didn't you see that pedestrian crossing? And the driver says, yes, I saw him crossing. And why did you knock him? They knocked him because they didn't know that by the time they registered that pedestrian, they only had 50 meters left. And within 50 meters, remember, the brain, once it registers an obstacle, the brain does not stop the car. It is your hands or your legs that will stop the car by braking, right? If it's a car, you have to brake in the feet. There's a period of time that will be wasted when the information is being run from the brain to the legs. There's a period of time, very quickly, you don't realize, but it's so fast. If you're moving very fast, then you're late. Then you have braked. But you braked. You didn't stop the car. There was a lot of inertia. There was a lot of, the force, the moving force, velocity. You also need time and space to bring velocity from 100 to 0. It goes down gradually. You can stop these motorcycle tires by braking very hard, but you will not stop this machine from moving. You understand what I mean?
I'm lost. You can do what?
You can brake so hard
Stop the
tires, but you will not stop the machine.
How's that? Because the tire will stop spinning, but the...
Yeah, you lock the tires, but you still go because inertia.
The force that's pulling you...
Yeah, the force that's
forward.
pulling you will continue moving forward. Correct?
So, with wrong calculation, that's how people hit obstacles.
Yeah, people hit obstacles because the speed they were traveling at could not allow them to stop within the distance they would see, even if they braked hard. They would still move towards the obstacle. And also remember, there's a factor here. You are on a ground. If you are on asphalt, which is tarmac, and it's a dry day, chances of stopping quicker are greater. Right? If it's a cold day and tarmac, this tarmac behaves very differently depending on the weather. Did you know that? That even if it's not raining but it's cold, like 6 p.m., like 6 a.m. in the morning, there's no rainfall, but tarmac forms, it becomes so hard, like it becomes slippery. Not like in the day when there's sunlight. And when it rains, it changes its features again. So it really depends where you are and what time of the day it is. If you're riding on off-road, or I see other riders riding on the pavement side, on the side of the road, that side of the road, if you apply brakes, you don't stop completely. If you are used to riding on we call it the wing. The wing, or others call it hard shoulder. The position where bodabodas ride in. That is not the required position for motorcycles.
Which position is this?
So we have 3 positions on a lane. There's position 1, position 2, and position 3 on every lane for motorcycles. So position 1 is near side. So professional language is near side. Near side means the left side near land. near the pavement. That left side is called the near side. It is the position which the car puts its left side tires, right? And then we have the central position, which is called command position professionally, which is in the center of the car. Like if the car was sitting on the lane, then the middle of that car, because you can place your motorcycle in the middle. And then we have the offside position, which is close to the yellow line, close to the center of the road. The offside, we call it the offside position. So people, bodabodas in Kenya will be riding on the offside position always when cars are slower than them. You know that. Lane splitting.
Which is a bit risky, right?
Which is also risky, not a bit.
Very risky.
The left side, which I think most drivers now have been made to think that it's the position for motorcyclists. I don't know for what reason. That left side, which I call the near side, is also very risky. So the safest position is actually the middle of the lane. And that's what the law dedicates, because you're riding a machine that has speed like a car. You should put it in the middle of the lane. I think because of ignorance or many other reasons, many people don't realize that you should put your machine in the middle of the lane all the time. But in the advanced riding, we advise people that you take any position at any time for advantage. Why advantage? Because if I'm alone, for example, in the middle of the night, and the road is clear behind and in front, I will not put the machine on one side of the lane. I'll put the machine on the offside, close to the center line, so that I have a bigger escape space. In case there's a pothole or something, I'm very close to the middle of the road. It's not easy to veer from that position to the edge on either sides. If I'm alone on the road on a Sunday morning and there are no cars, it's a stretch and I'm alone, I'll put the bike on the offside, close to the offside, not across the center line. Never. Right? When I say offside, I mean the position where the car puts its right side tires. And I would be on the left side, the near side, if I'm turning right. If I'm turning right in a sharp corner, I will put the machine on the near side. This is very different from racing line. I know every rider who thinks they know how to ride, they will always want to put the machine inside the corner. So to straighten the corner, right?
To straighten it.
Yeah, but why are you straightening the corner on the road? You're not racing, are you?
It's not a track.
You're taking a fast lane. Why? You're taking a fast line on the road in a corner where you can't see 20 meters away, right? So we advise people to put the machine on the far left, and when you do that, you get advantage of sight. When you go wide, you see far, right? The wider you go, the farther you see. Like you expand your view. When you go inside, you lock your view. There's something we call limit point. We take our limit point further when we go further outside, and we bring our limit point closer when we go further inside. So I will use the three positions only when I need each of the positions, and only when one position gives me greater chances of safety than another. So I will be in the middle of the lane when it's safer. I'll be on the edge when it's safer. I will not be on the left side of the road when there's a car following, because already I've told that car that, you know what, you can pass. So one thing that people don't realize also is this machine is a motorcycle. You follow this machine from behind, you think it's a motorcycle because it has one tail light, it has one headlight. What people don't know is this machine, the width of this machine is just a few inches less from the width of a car. That's what people don't realize. This steering bar from this end to this end, if you measure a car, there's a very small difference in width. So a driver thinks they can merge with you in the same lane and pass you in the same lane. They have done this many times. They have passed you in the lane, right? Because they have been passing motorcycles in the same lane, today there's an oncoming car. So just when they commit to pass, because they don't realize that every day they pass this motorcycle, one person has to step away. And usually what happens is if the motorcycle is on the extreme left, drivers will always cross the center line just a little bit. They put the right tire side across the yellow line, so they pass you. It's close, but they are passing you. Because the road was clear, they were able to put the right side tire across the center line. Today, there's an oncoming car. Do you think they will cross that line? They will not cross that line. So, given that they have already committed to passing you, and maybe they are passing you halfway, and there's an oncoming car, they will want to come back to their lane. And one must leave the other one in the lane, and the motorcycle will always be pushed away. Many riders have lost life in this juncture.
But whose fault is it?
It is the driver's fault. You do not overtake somebody in the same lane. And I have seen this also. I have talked to even private bikers. I have ridden in different countries. I have ridden in Tanzania, I've ridden in India, I've ridden in other countries apart from Kenya. I've also ridden all over this country. I'm telling you, I've ridden everywhere in this country. Apart from Lamu.
Why not Lamu?
I don't know why, but I never got a chance to go to Lamu. Now, whenever I was riding in groups and even with others, except my students, everybody at the end of the journey asked me, why? Why are you having to cross the road all the way to the other side while there's nothing? There's only one car you're overtaking and you have to cross the road and go very far from the car. And I've told them always that there's a reason why I go far from them. Imagine if there was a pothole in front just before you commit an overtake. You're a rider, right? You know how people overtake cars. You just need to move like 5 inches away from the car, and then you accelerate. And it takes only 2 seconds to pass that car.
Gone.
A machine like this will take 1 second or less. You're gone. Imagine there was a pothole in front on the left side, and the driver had seen that pothole, and they are planning to avoid that pothole. Imagine they were planning to avoid that pothole. What options do they have?
They slow down so that they can.
They would either slow
switch
down
lanes.
And if the driver is looking in front and there's nothing, there's no one coming, they think they are alone, what is the option they are going to take? They are going to avoid the pothole by swerving. Correct? So they will move close to the center line or even across the center line to avoid the pothole. You agree?
Yes.
So if the driver swerves to avoid the pothole at that time and you're overtaking them, where's your fate?
That instance.
Where's your fate? Many riders have died. And they will always say, oh, during the overtake, the driver changed direction. They changed position. They changed position, yes, but they were within their own lane. They changed position within their own lane. There's no wrong changing position in your lane. What is wrong? If you're avoiding a pothole, swerving to avoid a pothole within your own lane, the rider who was trying to pass you close to your lane is the one who was wrong. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, because what the driver was doing was trying to avoid a hazard.
He was avoiding a hazard, but he was within his lane. It was his rightful time to avoid that hazard. Would you wish that the driver crashes their car because of you?
Of course not. Yeah.
And who tells you that they saw you? Because you came from behind, and these machines go very fast.
There's
you know, you
can
approach a driver and pass them without even realizing you were there.
The driver will not realize you are
By
there.
the time you came from wherever you came from, you approached that car. It took only 3 seconds for you to be there, and you passed them. They were like, okay, where did this guy come from? They didn't even notice you were behind them. So chances are they didn't see you, or maybe you are in their blind spot all the time you were following them. Yeah.
So we've always been blaming them for no reason. At some point.
At some point.
Yeah.
In many instances, actually, drivers have been blamed when they were not wrong.
But they take the higher percentage.
They also take the higher percentage in different different accords. For example, trying to pass us within the same lane. And I think this they don't know. If I ask you, you've been in Kenya for a long time. You've seen how border borders ride on the road. Border borders don't follow the lane. They don't want to slow down. They don't want to stop. Right? Nowadays, they are going wrong side because, roads are being built.
Perfect
Dual
excuse.
carriages are being built. pavements are being made.
Mm.
Now there are barriers between the road, you can't cross to the other side. So these guys are having to go on the wrong side to take the shortest route to get to the next junction so they can cross over to the other side. And they are doing it. And they are carrying passengers. And I'm wondering what passengers are thinking when they are being taken offside. Because if you're riding offside, if you get into an accident, you're wrong. Even if it's not your fault. You're not supposed to be there in the first place. So you're liable. And it's because of you, actually, that the accident occurred. Because people think they're so good on machines, they can do what they want. What they don't realize is, you don't know who is coming. When somebody sees you, I want to ask you this very quickly. So you're riding on the middle of the road. It's a nice stretch, no problem. It is Sunday afternoon. The road is less busy. There's only one car coming from the other side. And you choose to go on that side and start riding straight into that car. Right? So you're riding towards the car. You're still far apart, like 1 kilometer, maybe less than a kilometer, but still far enough. And the driver is coming towards you. And you're going towards them on their side. What do you think will the driver think? What do you think will the driver think about you?
The driver is in front of me.
So they are coming head on. You have left your lane. You have gone on the offside. So you're riding towards
The
oncoming.
The oncoming.
And you are in their lane. And they are coming towards you hot. And you're going hot. What do you think they will think? So they will not just look at you. They will think that you're insane. Maybe you want to commit suicide. That's one. Right? They will think that you're pushing to the right because you want to, you want to go off-road on the other side. So they will think, okay, this guy is sitting on the right side. Maybe he wants to go this way. So what they will plan is they will want to go on the other side, on your side. Right? Because if someone is coming straight into you, you also have to avoid them. So where do you avoid them from? You avoid them from the side they came from, right?
You're going to their side now, where they should
You
be.
go to their side because you think they have possessed your position, so you go on the other side. So if the driver is planning to go on your side, they've already committed to go to your side, and yet you think you knew what you were doing. You are just occupying their space so that when they come close, you go back to your side. Then they have decided to avoid you by going to your side. Then you're dead.
I've seen this a lot in the Nakuru-Naivasha highway. Bikers have been posting in the AMD. You find that the biker is on his lane, for instance, he's just doing well. And then maybe a matatu is trying to overtake and comes on his lane.
Especially buses.
Yeah. And the biker is misplaced. He goes off
the road.
Yeah, he goes off the road.
And I want to appeal to all road users if they can hear us. And if anyone who accesses this conversation that we are having tonight, that it is very malicious. It's a killer act. It is not an accident. It's murder. When you see a motorcycle oncoming and you choose to overtake right when they are very close, it's murder. Many motorcyclists have lost lives in the same situations. What these drivers don't realize is one thing. It's also a brain issue. When I pick up pen and point it towards you like this, and make sure that you don't see the face of that pen completely, I point the pen towards you like this, straight towards you. Do you know you will not realize that this pen is moving towards you? If I move that pen slowly towards you, you will not realize the speed of the pen coming towards you because you can't see it in the first place.
Until it gets closer.
Right? If you see it on the sideway, you will realize it's moving faster or slower. But if it's pointing towards you straight like this, you will not realize it's coming faster.
Hard to see.
So drivers see a motorcycle and they assume, that's just a bike. Kumbe the guy is doing 120 or 140 or 100, even 80 kilometers per hour.
For sport bike, 80s.
Look, I do not advocate that people ride fast.
Mm.
But if I'm riding at 100 kilometers per hour, which is the normal speed on highway, and you strike me with a surprise, do you think I will control that motorcycle at that point? It's very hard to control this motorcycle at that point, because controlling a car is easier because, look, you just need to apply brakes or skills. The car is taking care of itself. It's standing on force. The COG, the center of gravity, is not a problem for a car. You understand what I mean? You only need to deal with inertia. But for a motorcycle, for you to avoid a hazard, you need to lean this machine to get it off course. You can't just avoid that pothole or that bump or that car. You need to lean this machine to one side. Did you know that? We don't turn the motorcycle steering like a car. We lean it. So by the time you lean this machine to the side at 80 kilometers per hour, just one split lean, you're already off the road. So what the rider needs is a process, because we ride with procedures. There are, we call the systems of motorcycle control. And we call it IPSA in our class.
All right. So yeah, we'll...
Information, position, speed, gear, acceleration. So this system takes time. By the time the rider slows down for them to be able to avoid, you've already knocked them.
So about the system that you're mentioning about, that it's like a guidance, you said, yeah?
Yes.
So what is it about?
It's about a good rider being able to control the machine fully and being able to manage the surrounding and the speed. It's a system that you keep running through whenever you're riding. If you've done advanced rider course with us, you will know what means when you say IPSA. IPSA with a GA at the end. So this is a normal training in UK. Yeah, it's a training syllabus from the BDRS. So BDRS means British Driving and Riding Standards. So this is an agency that provides the training curriculums to the training schools. And in this curriculum, there's a part called IPSA, which is information, position, speed, gear, acceleration.
Information, position, speed, gears, and acceleration.
Yeah. So a good rider is running through this system, a system of motorcycle control. Every time they're riding, they know that they need information. So they are looking to get information. Right hand, before hazards unfold. There are points when hazards materialize, and if you didn't notice them early, chances of coming out are very minimal on a motorcycle. So you need to be assessing, planning, getting information, anticipating, percepting anything that's happening in front. You do not need to reach a junction to look into the junction and notice there's a car waiting. You must be able to notice a junction even before you get there. Because what happens in junctions, someone will always pull out. If not today, they will do it tomorrow.
It will always happen.
It will always happen that someone today did not respect you, did not stop for you. Somebody did not give you way. This is happening every time. 5 people will give you way, 1 person will not. But you know what? Every day we ride, people stop for us to pass. Every day we ride, people stop for us to pass until we think, okay, it's our right, which is right? The law says, the law of priority says stop for the cars that are on the main road. So the cars from the minor road must stop and give way to the cars that are on the main road. But imagine this. Today, there's a maniac that's coming from the other direction. He's drunk. He doesn't even care. Do you think he will stop for you?
To him.
Do you think he will stop for you?
No.
So we look ahead and plan. We see, we perceive early before we are there. So information. Once we realize there's someone in that junction that may not stop by the time we get there, They are coming towards the junction, and the speed shows the people might not stop before we get there. We position ourselves in a manner that in case the brake fails, they still don't knock us if they don't stop.
And how is that?
You change your position. IPSA, information,
Position.
position. Another example, a quick one. You're doing 100, it's raining. Then suddenly, a matatu swerves in front of you, 20 meters in front. It swerves towards you. You know very well you're going to run into that matatu. Correct? So you are on the left lane, the matatu is on the right lane. Then suddenly he changes position to the left. You're doing 100, you're doing 80. Right in front of you. Do you start braking? If you panic brake, you will brake, but you will still knock them. On a motorcycle, you will run into them, and you will be wrong. You know why these guys do that? They do that because they know if you run into them, you are wrong. The law says if you knock somebody behind, you're wrong. So there is this disregard of the history of the occurrence before the accident. What happened before the accident? As far as you run behind this car, you're wrong. You're told you're supposed to have kept distance. But this guy changed lane. He was doing 40, you're doing 80. He was in his lane. You're doing twice his speed within the space. He changed lane. You braked, but you still knocked them because the distance would not allow you to stop or to bring the motorcycle from 80 to 40 so that you match their speed. So you run into them and they still think you are wrong, right? So we tell people that in this situation, do not brake. Because even if you brake, you will still knock them. Before you brake, position yourself. So how do you position yourself? By maneuvering. So if they change lane to the left, I change immediately to the right. Then I start braking. And many times I've braked and find that if I didn't change the lane, I would have knocked them. So position first before speed. So it's information, position. Once you position yourself, then speed. So speed means not just acceleration, but also braking. Speed means either up or down. So speed down, you brake, right? A good rider knows how to brake.
Definitely. Sure.
Then you brake. Then after speed is IPSA, so information, position, speed, gear. Some riders will slow down, speed down, but they forget or fail to shift down to match the speed and the gears, right? Then they slow down. They were in 6th or 5th gear. Now they have slowed down enough. The speed is matching the 2nd gear, but they're still in 4th gear. Then, okay, the hazard is gone. So what do you do after the hazard is gone? You accelerate. If you accelerate from speed 20 in gear 4, you will definitely stall.
Yeah, before it peaks.
You will stall. But remember, when the matatu swerved into your lane, it did not disorient you alone. There was someone else behind you. And this person is also coming hot. And if you stall, then you know what happens.
Oh, that's a lot.
So it's a system.
Oh, yeah. That is interesting. So now, let me ask you, engine braking.
Yes.
As you shift your gears up, does the engine braking improve or it gets much more lighter?
Engine braking only works during the speed down. Engine braking does not work during speed up. So I will explain how it works quickly. It's basically those that have some mechanical understanding will understand quicker. But how we tell people is that in the engine, inside the engine there's a cylinder. And inside that cylinder is a chamber. It's called combustion chamber, where the firing occurs. So there's a piston that runs in reciprocal motion. It runs up and down. In a 4-stroke engine, the piston goes 4 strokes. So one complete round is 4 strokes. And the first stroke is intake, the second stroke is compression, the third stroke is fire, which is the power stroke, and then the fourth is exhaust. So the piston runs the 4 strokes in every complete round. So if you are in second gear, for example, and maximize your throttle, so it means you've opened gas and the engine is doing the highest RPM, right? At that point, if you maximize your throttle, then suddenly shut down throttle, you've closed gas. So the speed of the engine, when the speed of the engine went up, because anytime you add gas, you add engine speed, you add power, you add speed, isn't it? When you shut down gas immediately, so the engine shuts down. So there's no more gas coming into the engine, so there's no more firing. So firing, the power stroke is occurring, but there's nothing to fire because you've closed gas. So air is coming in, and that air inside the engine is being pressed. So as the engine presses, the piston compresses air that's inside the piston. So there's no firing happening. So there's no engine speed going up. And the tire, because the tire was rotating faster when you accelerated, this time you've shut down the gas. The tire wants to push the motorcycle, but the engine this time, instead of the engine pulling the tire now, the engine resists the force from the tire. So that resistance
slows it down.
And for some motorcycles like this one, when you shut down gas on a downhill, you will hear some popping sound. Boom, 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 boom.
Especially on low gears,
backfire.
right?
On low gears, yes. That means it's ejecting the unbound, like when you close gas, the firing is not occurring. So there's release through the exhaust. There's that release of unburnt gas because you closed gas. So there's no firing. And the unburnt gas is coming out to the exhaust, which is already hot. It burns in the exhaust, and that's what gives you the popping sound in the exhaust. So the engine resisting force from the tire. So the tire wants the engine to run, but the engine is resisting. So providing you with a lot of braking. That's what is called engine braking. So for smaller CC motorcycles like 150s and 100s, they don't even know what engine braking is.
Do they have engine braking?
Trust me, if you ask them, they will tell you what is that. You know why? Because the resistance from those cylinders is very, very low. And for two-stroke machines, there's no engine braking. So it depends with the size of the cylinder. The biggest cylinder gives you the more resistance. So the bigger bikes like super bikes, for example, they have very good engine braking.
Oh, interesting.
As opposed to smaller CC bikes. And the best bikes that will give you the best engine braking are single cylinder machines.
Single cylinders.
Yes.
So now, I think we're getting a little bit technical here because I seem to understand it better.
Yeah.
So single cylinders, and then we have what else? Apart from the single cylinders?
So we have single cylinders, we have twins.
We have twin cylinders?
Up to 4 cylinders.
4 cylinders.
Even 6 cylinders.
Yeah, so could you just briefly explain the difference between a single cylinder, a twin cylinder, and a 4-stroke?
So it depends on the models because Germans have their twins. The African twin, for example, they have their twins. And this is very technical. It cannot be explained here.
Oh, okay.
Unless there's a diagram or a video that will elaborate. But I will just talk quickly about a single cylinder, a 4-stroke single cylinder and how it works very quickly. So like I said, first stroke is intake, the second stroke is compression, and then the third is firing, and then the fourth is exhaust. There are 2 valves. Quickly. There are others with more than 2 valves, but I'll just talk about 2 valves. One valve opens. You know how the syringe works? When you pull the syringe, it has to pull everything that is in front. Right? If you block the hole of the syringe and you pull, you will almost not be able to pull it backwards because it has to suck something. So during the intake stroke, the intake valve opens, and as the piston runs down, it behaves like the syringe. As the piston runs down, it sucks in the air, which has already been premixed by fuel in the carburetor. So the mixing is done in the carburetor. So, there's the tank here, there's air intake, the air intake hose. So air and fuel is mixed at a ratio that depending on how it is set. And inside the fuel, there is elements of carbon and elements of hydrogen. So we call it's actually called hydrocarbon petrol, right? Because it contains the elements of hydro and carbon. So the elements are mixed with large volumes of air and then sucked into the combustion chamber when the intake valve opens, and then the valve closes. So both valves are closed, and then the piston has to come back pressing that mixture. The piston from bottom here all the way up, compressing a whole volume of mixture that was taken in when it was going down, compresses that mixture into a very small space like this, because the piston has to come all the way to the top. It's called the TDC, the top dead center, where the piston reaches and it can't move further up. So that air from this volume to this volume, that compression alone makes the air to become hot.
Okay.
The higher the pressure, the higher the temperature. So air is already hot up to, I think, 60 something Fahrenheit degrees. And then there's a spark plug. So the spark plug, the work of the spark plug is to ignite fire. It sparks the burning fire into the chamber. And this fire is not just fire. There's something called a shooting coil. I'm talking about carburetor motorcycles, the basic bikes. So the shooting coils get electricity from either the battery or from the coils where the electricity is generated in the bike. So this power, 12 volts or whatever it is taken to the shooting coil, which acts as a capacitor, charges that electricity up to over 200 volts. Right? Then, through the lead, there's a very special wire called lead. It has a very thick insulation. So through the lead, the spark is released. Remember, it's over 200 volts. Released. Then it goes to it hits the top of the spark plug, and then the spark plug drives it through to the engine. So that's like over 200 volts inside a chamber, enclosed chamber, which already has compressed carbohydrogen, right? The compression around has already caused heat, and then there's over 200 volts hitting it. Then there's an explosion. So the explosion is what is the power stroke. So that explosion pushes the piston back down. That's the power stroke.
That's a whole process. And then for us, we just have to do the throttle like
you
this.
just need to open or close throttle.
Open the throttle and that's it. And
Yeah.
the process, what you've just explained is the process that happens in the engine
Inside
now
the engine.
for that to happen.
And that's how we get power. So the piston runs only up and down. We call it the reciprocal motion. It only runs top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. So you will ask me a question. A single cylinder, how now are we able to get this compression? How are we able to get intake? And how are we able to get exhaust if there's only one power stroke in every four? What completes the other three? I know that's your question. And the answer is there's a flywheel. There's a heavy metal placed on one side of the crankshaft. This metal is so heavy that once the crankshaft rotates, because anytime the piston goes up, the crankshaft rotates. Anytime the piston goes down again, the crankshaft rotates. So one power stroke is enough to rotate this crankshaft through the flywheel, because the flywheel will get one stroke and will rotate 3 other strokes without needing another power stroke.
And it moves.
And it moves.
Oh, nice.
It becomes auto.
Yeah, that is well explained, I think.
Yeah.
But I love to listen to this podcast over and over to understand that side, that physics.
The science.
Yeah,
the
now
physics,
let me ask you. You said you've ridden in India, Tanzania, Uganda.
Yeah.
What difference do you see between those places that you've gone with the Kenyan Kenyan
The
riders, for
huge
instance.
difference that I can attest to is that I've seen most people in, especially Tanzania, being very respectful whenever they are riding or driving. And I'll give a big example on drivers. So, because I was always riding, there is no single car that passed me inside the lane I was. I was surprised the first time. I went the second time, it was the same thing. The third time, it was the same thing. These people will always wait until it is time, better time to overtake. Then they will cross over to the other lane. They will accelerate, pass you, then come back to the lane. If there's an oncoming and they think they will not manage to pass you before the oncoming car passes, they will wait. They will wait.
Wow.
Even if towns like Arusha, I've seen also maniacs, but these are only riders. Yeah, drivers don't misbehave at all. I haven't even the maniac matatus that we know, they don't misbehave. Probably because of their systems, maybe the law systems or heavy fines.
So the law is strict, yeah.
Strict, and also the way they are fined. You know, you
The fine
get
is
stopped,
heavy.
you get fined immediately. Like they have machines, so they just, you give them your card, they swipe, they tell you this is your fine, and they charge you there. So I think that makes it prompt discipline rather than having long processes of
Going to the police station,
and
they book
all
you
the
in.
process and all and many things happen in between, and it's very easy for people to walk away with mistakes.
We should adopt that, huh?
Yeah, we should.
Hopefully we'll get there someday. What about in India? You said did you go with your bike from Kenya to India?
We flew to India and rode in different states. Basically, our main aim was to ride within the high altitude zones, the Himalayas, which we did.
How was that experience?
Oh man, I will tell you that when I was there, I realized, but I saw so many people from all over the world, and actually to other people, because I met someone from Turkey, and they told me, you know what, my father did this long time ago, but in a car, and I have grown knowing that I will come here once in like at least before I die, I should do. It's called the Ladakh Great Expedition. There are people who are actually saving their whole life to go once before they die.
To Himalayas.
To Himalayas. Like, it's a whole new experience. Like sitting 17,300 feet above the sea level. You know, this is like
you're going up on a bike.
Kilimanjaro. Yeah, going on a bike. There was the highest peak that we reached, which dominated as the highest, the world's highest motorized road for so many years, before another peak was built in India, in China, and it's called Kadungla. So Kadungla was the highest peak, actually the world's highest motorized road. Like, you passing there in a car, it's like you're in an aeroplane in Kenya.
You said
17,300 feet above the sea level.
Yeah, actually, that's like where flights, how high a flight can go. Actually,
I don't know how high these caravans go, but I know it's maybe below 20,000.
So for you were there with a group of riders. Was it an arranged ride?
Yeah. It was just a tour
for
bikers from Kenya.
Oh, you went with other bikers from Kenya?
Yeah.
Okay. So the main aim was just to get at the peak and then get the experience and come back.
Yeah, I was lucky to be in a group of people who understand what Ladakh Great Expedition is. And when they were planning it, I was part of them, because some of them were my students before and said, you know what, we can't do Ladakh without you. And yes, when I got there, I knew why they insisted I come. You're riding up there and you have a cliff that is like 3 kilometers below you. You miss the road, like nothing gets. Like, if you're there, you don't need to be given laws. You just need to be walked around and be told this is where you are going to be. This is your height. This is the number of clips. They are like 5,000 bends. You will do all the bends. You will get tired, but you will not stop because you can't stop in bends. You have to continue going. And trust me, you behave. You don't need a law. You just look aside and you say, okay, if I miss this road,
you're going
I'm
down.
gone.
Oh my goodness. That's a risky venture.
It is, but it changes how people think about safety. I learned a lot when I was riding there. I was able to content myself within a zone that I needed nobody to tell me to choose what speed I wanted to do.
You just learned.
I learned how to control my speed. I learned how to approach bends. I thought I knew how to approach bends. You know, in Kenya there are not bends that especially these young riders, you know, these young boys and girls who are buying beautiful, powerful, nice motorcycles. There's no bend in this country today that I'll tell you is so dangerous that if you take them there, they will panic. There's none. If you go to Ladakh, you will understand what I'm saying.
Even Nyoka Nyoka does not count.
See, people go to Nyoka Nyoka to enjoy
The adventure there. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
So now what I wanted to ask you, in this the adventure that you went in Ladakh, how long was it?
It's I think 17 days.
Just being on the road.
Like riding days.
And is it true that the engines, including cars as well, and bikes, they are affected the higher you go?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were a group of guys, and because we formed a group before we went, so guys, our host knew that I'm a trainer here. And when he was choosing motorcycles, I don't know by what virtue, he decided to give me the older version of the Himalayas. There's a motorcycle called the Himalayan, the Royal Enfield.
You are getting motorcycles from there. They
From
were
there,
not being shipped.
Yeah, you don't go with your bike there.
You hire.
Actually, there are states there that you don't even take another bike from another state as tourists. So you have to use their own bikes. I think there's a way of also like making sure they give back to the community,
Collecting revenues.
and also it's okay if you're coming to experience. Just come the way you are. Why would you bring your own car or your own bike and then bring a GS like this one? Then eventually you can't bring it out of the place. Just come and use what we use. And what I learned is these Himalayas actually are motorcycle built for, and that's why they are called the Himalayas. So there's an older version of the Himalayas, and there's a newer version of the Himalayas at that time. Right now I hear there's another one.
Which company is building this? It's in India.
The Royal Enfield, yes, India.
Okay.
I think it was initially blueprinted in, I don't know, Europe. These bikes that they are made like the Bullet, you know. They were built during those times of the First or Second World War, and I think they were used those times. So the Royal Enfield has a bike that is built to take high altitude.
To withstand them.
And when we were riding, there's a section that we went to, and my bike started struggling a lot. I didn't realize at first why my bike. So as we are going up, my bike is struggling. When we start going down, my bike is the best. When we're in a stretch, depending on what altitude we are, so the bike was behaving based on the altitude. These other guys did not realize because they were riding a newer version of the Himalayas, which has some kind of smart pump
adjustments,
which mixes oxygen, like picks air and makes sure it has a lot of oxygen content before it gives to the cab. I don't know how they've made it, but I think it's a smart version of the Himalayas. So mine was the normal one, normal intake, normal, so oxygen is very little in the air. is actually not able to support the burning. That's why my bike was struggling. So I struggled in first stretch. The guy knew I was struggling. He didn't. He knew I would make it, so he didn't care. But of course, there was a car behind, so in case anything goes wrong, there was always a backup.
Guides.
Yeah, there was a backup. Even mechanics and everything, food, you're carrying everything. You're out in the wild, man. If the weather turns against you, people have lost lives there. It's an expedition, trust me.
Because of not planning properly.
Or sometimes the weather becomes very cruel. You have to go 150 kilometers to find the next hotel, then the weather, or landslides occur in the middle, and you have
so
nowhere
do you
to
sign
go.
something like you're
Like a
responsible
waiver
for
or something? Yeah, you have to.
So do they go to retrieve the bodies and send them back to the country? Or?
I never witnessed that, but I think if you go into history, you will find things have happened there. But right now, roads are good. Initially, I think it was worse. Long time. It was worse. If what I saw that time was what I saw. But it's really fun, trust me. It is safe. There's a lot of security detail and everything. Roads are accessible. There are so many army trucks, passing. So chances of getting caught in the wild are low. But if you deviate from the main roads, then it can become more dangerous.
So what's in your bucket list? Where do you want to travel next? Where would you wish to go?
I'm still in Kenya at the moment. I'm traveling around. I have to be here. It was just last year that I was very far away.
That's when you were in Himalayas?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but again, after coming back, I'm always traveling.
You're always on the road.
I know you're asking yourself, why is this guy traveling? He's not working. No. This is my line of duty. So guys will always come together and say, Peter, we want to go to this place. Then I'll plan. And adventure is not just traveling. Adventure starts from the planning. It starts from the choices. Actually, adventure starts from the choice. Choice of the motorcycle you ride. That's where adventure starts. You understand what I mean? If I chose to become a racer on the track, for example, then I would buy a racing bike. Sindio, I would not ride on the road. These racing bikes are not road legal. They are carried to the track, and then you carry them back home. So that's not adventure. That's racing. So from the choice of what you want to ride, you make your mind there. So if you want to become adventure, you buy an adventure bike. Do not buy a super bike and say, okay, I want to go to Turkana. I know it is possible. People have gone to Turkana on sports bikes.
But they struggle a lot.
Apart from struggle, it was a risk affair. It's like taking the wrong tool, to work. Why would you take the wrong tool to work if you have the right tools?
When you can get the right ones.
You can make a better choice. So adventure from there, then planning alone. Maybe people think you can just wake up and say, I'm going adventure today. And then you get there and you realize you left something. Just one thing that you left that would have saved you. It's very essential. And ends up even costing your life.
Where?
Just something like this that I have in the pocket. This is a puncture repair kit. This small thing you see here.
I cannot come out.
Yeah, you can get this out. It's just a simple screw. So that simple screw.
Inside the rubber. It's inside the rubber, yeah?
Yeah, so it's coated with some rubber, and that rubber is not just rubber. It is a sticky rubber.
Looks like silicone.
Yes, so it's a sticky rubber that sticks to the tire.
Puncture repair.
So if you have a puncture, you actually screw this thing inside the tire, and you're good to go.
So you need a screwdriver.
You need a screwdriver.
Oh, it can push
you see now from removing the tire and getting the tube and doing all that to screwing into the tire. I know you're wondering, because screwing actually into the tire is you're making a puncture. But this you screw into the tire to repair the puncture. You just need to be able to ride to the next stage or to the next place where there is life.
Oh, okay.
Because you're passing, like if you're doing adventure, for example, to the north, We rode from Nairobi to Loyangalani. People have gone to Chalbi Desert and beyond. Imagine 90% off-road right from Maralal. And you're going through Suguta Valley. You're going through those, you know, the names you hear on TV. And you're going through that road. And then you get a puncture in a stretch somewhere. Yeah? Around Suguta Valley. How do you come out of that place?
And then no cars are passing, no people.
No people, no cars, nothing. It's just you guys and security guys there. So you don't want to spend 2-3 days there. And maybe you don't have supplies to keep you there for one more night. Because your plan was, I want to be here at the end of the day. I want to be in South Hor, for example. And then you're stuck somewhere between the elephant. There's a land infested with a lot of elephants somewhere. So how do you come out? So something basic, very simple like this. So you need someone to guide you at first. You need someone to be with you, someone who can help you in case you are in trouble with the machine. At least a mechanic, or if you have if you have new machines, at least someone who can diagnose and say, you know what, this machine is suffering from, or you might just drop this machine and break something very simple. Then how do you get out?
Are these things even available locally?
This is a very new technology, simplified.
Because I'm used to the one where you dunga and then there's that karaba you put in, because I have that kit. And then I have the carbon dioxide to feel the pressure at least until when I get to the nearest service station.
Yeah, as they say. And there's a word we say, I learned this from the BMW Motorrad training, an instructor from Country Trucks, South Africa. And he said, wear one, wash one. That time I didn't understand what he was saying.
Wash one.
Yeah, have you ever heard about that?
No. What does that really mean?
It means you don't need a bag of clothes to travel the world. No. Try to minimize weight as much as you can and carry the most essential items. Rather than carrying clothes and carrying so many other things and leaving the most essential items like this. Items that determines your fate. If you come back alive or not.
It's better than clothes, actually, if you come to think of it. That's your life.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So it's a new technology, because actually I've never seen it.
So evolution is that they are creating better, smaller, easier, and less technical repair kits. On this motorcycle, on this particular motorcycle, there are only two. Like if you need there's no plier on this motorcycle. There's only one size, I think T. The torque, you know the torque, because this bike you can't work on it with a spanner. There's no spanner. So the spanner you have here is one that can open the battery. 12
Even the Allen keys are
and
different.
14. The rest is whatever you're calling Allen key is not there. You only have two torque, and one is so those ones. You only have two. So there's nothing to do on this bike, right?
Yeah. Even this is not Allen key. This one right here looks like it.
Yeah. So if there's anything Allen key there, and I'll take that to the bank. If there's anything Allen key there, it is not stock. It's custom made.
It's not supposed to
That
have
screw
it.
was purchased locally and placed there. It did not come with the bike.
So basically what BMW was trying to say, that if you lose a part or you want to repair, you come to them. They're the only ones who have this.
I will not say that. You're right. But I will say that if you want to repair anything, you must be a mechanic.
Of the BMW specifically.
You must know what you're doing. This is not a bike to wake up in the morning and say, okay, today I want to check. You know what people do? They own bikes. The first bike, the people, even mine, the one I bought, the first one, I started working on it, pole. And the curiosity of wanting to understand how the bike works and all that, you find you've opened the tire, you've put it back, you've opened this, you put it back, and eventually you open and forget something on the brakes. you forget one. So one day I put a part of the bike to the ground, and when I mounted it back, I was left with I think four bolts and 3 nuts,
And you don't know where they should
and
go.
I never figured out where they came from.
So what do you do?
The bike was running, everything was fine. But do you think
But
it
there are
was
4
okay?
bolts that are not.
Yes.
That are
Yes, that
outside.
I can't
They should
fig-
be somewhere.
I don't know where they came from, but I opened them myself. So don't you think that was a risk to a motorcycle like this, whose the owner could decide to travel 500 kilometers away today through the thicket somewhere or through the desert, and that might cause like force to other parts, because 4 screws are missing.
So how
other
did you
parts are
figure
swa-
that out?
I just, I rode like 2 days. Then I took the bike to the mechanic. I told him I opened this whole section. Please put it back for me. So he did what
With the 4 screws.
and he never told me where they came from again.
But DIYs are very essential,
Yeah,
You get
they
like,
are. So basically, if you have to work on this machine, you have to take it in a special place, in a garage, and you have to know what you're doing, because you might end up destroying more than making.
Very interesting. Well, we've had a lot to talk about, and I'm really happy that you're here. You've actually mentioned some things that are very, very important, and I know those who are going to watch, they're going to learn something definitely. And I'd love it if you'd come back again now to have specific conversations based on instructions and how people should go about it. I know you've mentioned a few things earlier, especially on the road, which is very important.
Yeah, I'm happy. Thank you very much, Curtis, and your setup, your team. I'm happy that you've provided a platform like this so that people out there can learn something. We also learn. We are also in the process of learning. And if the little that we have right now can save somebody through you, then you're their savior, right? We train people, but not everybody comes to us. And we are sure that many people don't know us. Like you said at first, we are not many. And even if we were many, I think quality of information also really matters. Yeah, what people have invested in terms of their own understanding on how to give information also really matters. There will be so many trainers out there, but how they give information, or the information they can give, because we all know that people can only give information that is minimum. Minimum, I mean, if it's a curriculum, if I was following a curriculum, like the NTSA training curriculum, for example, I would be subject to running the curriculum itself as minimum. But there's no limit. If I know more than what has been set in the curriculum as minimum, then you benefit, right? Because I'll tell you things that are not in the curriculum, but they are very right. You need them. Right-hand experience, real-life experience that I maybe have acquired from different trainings or different experiences, but are not like in the curriculum, or maybe the time does not allow. So many people will just follow the curriculum and say, okay, you know how to ride now, you can go. But trust me, man, there's so much to learn as far as motorcycling is concerned.
You never stop.
You never stop learning. And if you look at our logo, it says, good riders never stop learning. That's our slogan. Good
And it's
riders never stop learning. I entered, just allow me this. I entered in an argument with someone, and he told me, look, the moment I was given that book, I knew I was certified. I said, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And I asked him a question. I asked him, okay, fine, now you're a driver. We were arguing about driving. And I said, yeah, so now that you are a good driver, because you believe the moment you passed the test and you're given the book, that was a sign that you're good to go.
You're good to go.
It is true, right? But what you don't realize is that was the minimum. So I asked him, have you seen this VIP presidential escort presidential drivers, these VIP drivers, have you seen how they drive? He said, yes. I asked him, have you seen how ambulances are driven? He said, yes. I asked him, have you seen how rally cars are driven? He said, yes. I asked him, so let's choose one of those. I put you in an ambulance today and ask you to drive like one of the ambulance drivers. He kept quiet. Because he realized there's something he didn't know, but he didn't know that he didn't know.
He had no idea. Yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense because with an ambulance, you have a sick person, you need to go at a certain speed, which is actually above the speed limit.
Yes.
And you still have to be safe at the same
They
time.
are not just drivers from driving school. No,
This is advanced
these are
riding
people
now.
that have advanced their skills. They have advanced they have changed their way of living. Do you know, to be a very good rider or driver, you have to change your lifestyle. You have to make sure that you're within humanly required standards of living.
Mm.
If you're traveling 1,500 kilometers tomorrow and you want to go to bed at 1 a.m., do you think you will make it?
For me, no.
As a human beings, it is true, we will fatigue at some point and we will not make it. Either we will make it tired, very exhausted, or die on the road.
As we try to make
Because fatigue is part of the hazards that you have to avoid. So you have to be in bed in good time. Being in bed in good time has to be a habit. You have to make sure that you don't drink, because people think you can drink today and ride tomorrow. That's what people think. As far as you're not drunk now, it's okay. What people didn't realize is alcohol content in the body affects your judgment, affects your thinking. Like we did a calculation on how fast the machine is moving versus how quickly you think. We did that, right? And you noticed that a normal state human being will waste up to 1.5 seconds. What about if you have 1 or 2 units in your alcohol in your blood system? Did you know that alcohol, 1 unit comes out of human body after every 1 hour? So if you have 6 units in your body, you
6
need
hours.
6 hours to
it to
eject
wash
the
out.
6 units. But they don't come out if you're asleep.
Is that the hangover thing? What is it?
No, the alcohol content in the blood, like within the blood, streaming, like running through the blood.
So
like when you drink alcohol, it gets digested and goes into the blood.
So
Just
by
like when
unit,
you eat.
you mean the amount of time it takes for it to get out of the system for you to be sober,
For you to back up to normalcy.
become normal again.
Yeah, otherwise you are under influence all the time. Even 1 unit alone is a big influence to your system. So if you need 1.5 seconds as normal to be in good reaction times, then you have 1 unit hindering your blood, your mental capacity or something, or body.
It interferes with your awareness.
And systems, and even reaction times. You have seen a hazard, you need to brake very quickly, but the hand did not pick the brake quickly because there was a delay in the process. 1 microsecond means life or death on a motorcycle.
Yeah, so you need to change your lifestyle.
You need to change your lifestyle.
Yeah, which is good, by the way. Makes a lot of sense.
So if you drink until midnight and then you go sleep thinking you'll ride in the morning, you wake up with 2 units in the body. And that's why, actually, if you have realized, on Saturdays and Sundays morning is when many accidents occur very early in the morning. And if you're traveling on Sunday morning, you will find breakdowns pulling cars off the road in the morning on Thika Road, this Langata Road initially, and
Eastern
areas
bypass.
where there are many bars. And I'm not against them, but you know what? If you drink until midnight and you're traveling tomorrow, don't travel, because you need at least to get all the units of your bloodstream before you start operating any machine. You understand? So you go to bed at 1 a.m. and then you sleep for 4 hours, but you had 7 units in your blood. So you wake up with 3 units.
Yeah.
But again, it's more than 3 because you need to excrete to get alcohol out.
So you've been resting, your body
Yeah.
has been relaxed. So
So you're now drunk.
now you're drunk proper. Well, this is interesting. I look forward to have you again. We can have different more topics, and we'll be able to shed some light. So the last question I'd like to ask you: what advice do you have for any aspiring bikers or drivers? Or
Yes. My biggest advice is before you take on this machine, get trained. Get properly trained. Please. Get properly trained. Find, if you can't find through friends, just Google. Find the best. Yeah? Do not make it a personal issue. Share with people. There are people out here that know better places that can offer the best trainings. Go to places which offer good trainings. Get well trained. And one challenge is you might not know if you are well or not well trained because you don't have the curriculum. It is the schools that have curriculums. It is the teachers that know what to teach you. You don't know what to be taught. Right? So please go to certified schools. Get certified people to train you because at least they are liable to the law. If they can give you that minimum training that is regulated, then you're good to take on as a start. But please don't stop. Find experts also because they are there. They are there.
And they are ready and willing to share the knowledge.
To share the knowledge.
Okay, thank you so much. I look forward to having you again.
Asante sana.